Have you ever caught yourself wondering, late at night, if you're really ready for what's next? Not just the numbers in your retirement account, but the shape of your daily life. What happens when the calendar clears and your time finally becomes yours? You might picture freedom, travel, or finally sleeping in. But then come the quiet questions. Will I be lonely? Will I stay healthy? Who will I talk to? What will give my life structure, meaning, rhythm? If you've had those thoughts, you're not alone. And if you haven't yet, trust me, they usually come right after the retirement party ends. Here's something that might surprise you. According to Stanford's Center on Longevity, most retirees will spend 20 to 30 years in retirement. That's a full chapter of your life, not an afterthought. And the question isn't just, will you survive it? It's, will you live it well? Today, we're going to explore a way of thinking that's helped many people just like you approach this next phase with more clarity and confidence. It's called future thinking. And it's not about predicting the future, it's about preparing for it. Now, before we go further, I'd love to hear something from you. If you're comfortable, share in the comments how you picture your life 5 years from now. Not just the dream, but the details. Where are you living? What do your mornings look like? Who do you spend time with? I'll read every single one, and I might even use a few as examples in a future video. So let's dive in. What exactly is future thinking, and why should it matter to you? Imagine this. You're driving down a foggy road. You can't see very far ahead, but you know there's a curve coming. You don't slam the brakes in panic. You slow down, turn the headlights on, and keep your hands steady. That's what future thinking does. It helps you see just far enough ahead to steer wisely. Now let me ask, when you think about retirement, are you only thinking about money? That's common. But retirement is not just a financial puzzle. It's a lifestyle shift, a social shift, and even an identity shift. And if you don't prepare for those, all the money in the world won't make you feel grounded. Here's something most people get wrong. They think planning means locking in one vision and sticking to it. But real planning means asking, what if? What if your health changes? What if your partner passes away first? What if your adult kids move across the country? Future thinking is about gently playing out those scenarios, not to scare you, but to give you options. Let me give you a real-world example. Carol, a woman I once worked with, was 60 when she started thinking seriously about her future. She wasn't sick, she had enough to live on, and she didn't feel like she was in a crisis. But she told me something that stuck with me. She said, I don't want to just age. I want to age on purpose. So we sat down and worked through questions most people avoid. If she needed help at home, what kind of help would she want? If she couldn't drive, how would she get around? Who would check on her if she didn't show up to church on Sunday? It wasn't easy, but it gave her confidence. And confidence is the key to freedom. When you know you've thought it through, you stop feeling like life is something that's happening to you. You start to feel like you're in charge again. Now, if you're hearing all this and thinking, that sounds overwhelming, I want to pause and reassure you. You don't have to figure everything out today. Start small. Start by asking better questions. Instead of, what should I do in retirement? Try, what does a good day look like to me? And what would it take to make that happen more often? This isn't about having all the answers. It's about building a mindset, a habit of thinking ahead with curiosity and compassion for yourself. And that brings us to a big, often ignored piece of the puzzle. Your social world. Many retirees feel isolated, even if they have people around, because the structure of work gave them more than income. It gave them routine, status, purpose, and casual connection. When that goes away, it can feel like drifting. But it doesn't have to. Think about this. In a study by the University of Chicago, retirees with strong social ties reported better health, fewer hospitalizations, and even slower cognitive decline. So how do you build that? One idea is what I call social anchors. These are regular touch points that give your week structure. It could be a weekly coffee group, a volunteer shift, or just walking with a neighbor every morning. You're not waiting to feel lonely to fix it. You're designing your week with connection in mind. Now let's talk about health. And I'm not just talking about going to the gym or eating kale. I'm talking about functional health. Can you get up from a chair without using your hands? Can you carry your groceries up the stairs? These are small things, until they're not. A 2022 study from the University of Idaho found that maintaining lower body strength past 60 was one of the best predictors of independence in later years. So if you're doing any kind of movement, walking, light resistance training, even gardening, you're already investing in your future freedom. Now, I know this isn't the glamorous stuff people post about when they talk retirement dreams. But here's the thing, your dreams need a foundation, and future thinking helps you lay it. So here's your next step. Grab a notebook or your notes app and write down one what if that's been sitting in the back of your mind. Then write down one thing you could do this month to prepare for it. It doesn't have to be big. Even calling a friend and saying, "Can we make a plan to check in every week?" That counts. This is the kind of habit that builds a resilient, meaningful retirement. And we're just getting started. Because next, we're going to talk about why the traditional idea of retirement may not fit you at all, and what to do instead. Because next, we're going to talk about why the traditional idea of retirement may not fit you at all, and what to do instead. For decades, retirement has been sold as the reward for years of work. Rest, relaxation, maybe some golf and grandkids. But here's the thing. That image was built for a different time. A time when people retired at 65 and didn't expect to live into their late 80s or 90s. A time when work was physical and rest was necessary. But your life? It's longer. It's more complex. And chances are, you're not looking to do nothing. You're looking to do something that matters, without the stress or structure of a 9 to 5. So let me ask you, what if retirement wasn't the end of your career, but the start of your purpose-driven chapter? That shift in mindset can change everything. You're not closing the book. You're turning the page. This is especially important if you're in your 60s and feeling restless. Like you're supposed to feel grateful, but secretly feel lost. That doesn't mean you're doing retirement wrong. It means your brain and body are still wired for engagement. You still need goals, structure, connection. Not because you're failing at slowing down, but because you're thriving at staying curious. There's actually neuroscience to back this up. Research from Stanford shows that people over 60 who regularly pursue meaningful goals, whether it's creative, social, or service-oriented, report higher levels of life satisfaction and lower rates of depression. And the kind of goals that work best? Ones that balance challenge with contribution. Not overwhelming, but not empty either. I want to share a story that really stuck with me. David, 67, retired from teaching high school after 35 years. The first 6 months felt like heaven. No alarm clocks, no grading papers. But after a while, he started feeling aimless. Not depressed, just adrift. Then one day, a neighbor asked if he'd help tutor her grandson in math. It turned into twice a week. Then a small local tutoring group. Now he runs a community math club at the library, all volunteer. No paychecks. But every Tuesday morning, he gets up with purpose. He says it's the best part of his week. That's not about going back to work. That's about going back to why you worked in the first place, to make a difference. So I want to invite you to think about this. What lights you up? What makes you feel needed, useful, engaged, even for just an hour a week? Don't wait for someone to hand it to you. Start with what you already know, what you already love, and where you already are. Now let's talk about something people often avoid in retirement planning: loss. Not just financial loss, but social, emotional, and identity losses. Maybe you've already felt some of these. The loss of being needed daily. The loss of routine. The loss of a title or status. Or even the shift in how your adult children treat you, now that they're raising families of their own. It's okay to grieve those changes. In fact, naming them gives you power. Ignoring them doesn't make them go away. It just delays your ability to rebuild something new. So here's a reframe. What if loss wasn't just the end of something, but also the space that lets something else begin? Think of a garden bed. You have to clear out what's dying so new growth can take root. Retirement is full of little seasons like that. And the more gently and honestly you move through them, the more fully you'll live what's next. Now let's zoom out and talk about legacy. I know, that word gets thrown around a lot, but I don't mean it in a grand or dramatic way. I mean this. What do you want to leave behind, in people's memories and in the impact of your choices? Sometimes legacy is financial, like setting up a simple will or trust to make things easier for your family. But more often, it's emotional and relational. It's the wisdom you pass on, the stories you share, the way you show up for others. You don't need a huge estate to create a meaningful legacy. You just need intention. For example, recording short video messages to your grandchildren, or writing down family recipes, or volunteering your time in a way that models generosity and resilience. One client of mine started hosting what she called Third Thursdays. Once a month, she invited her adult kids and grandkids for dinner in one life story. She didn't lecture. She just told a real story from her past. The time she failed, the time she learned, the time she had to choose the harder path. Her family now treasures those nights more than anything she could leave in a bank account. So here's a question to consider. What would you want someone to say about you? Not just at your funeral, but around a kitchen table, years from now. That's legacy. And you're building it every day, whether you mean to or not. Now, before we wrap up, I want to remind you of something simple, but powerful. Retirement doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be yours. There's no one right way to do this. You don't need to climb mountains, or start a business, or move to Florida, unless those things genuinely bring you joy. You just need to make choices on purpose. With eyes open, with tools in your hand, and with enough flexibility to shift course when life asks you to. Because life will ask you to. And that's not a failure. That's how you know you're still in it. So let's bring it all together. You've learned that retirement is not just about money. It's about mindset, mobility, meaning, and connection. You've seen how future thinking can give you a calm, confident foundation, even when the road ahead feels uncertain. You've heard stories of real people like Carol and David, who found clarity by asking honest questions and taking small steps. Now I want to hear from you. What's one small shift you could make this week to bring more purpose into your retirement? Leave a comment and share your idea, whether it's starting a walking group, calling an old friend, or just sitting down to write out your what-if plan. And if this video gave you something to think about, consider subscribing or sharing it with someone you care about. Because planning for retirement isn't a solo journey. It's a conversation, and it's one worth having. And remember, it's never too late to take control of your future. Even small steps make a big difference.